Welcome to Street Fight Radio, the #1 anarcho comedy radio show on any station across the nation. I am your host, Brian. Brett is still on assignment, but it is Drew week. I brought in Drew Spears, co-writer of our TV show. What's up, Drew?
Not a whole lot, man. I'm in my home. We've been running a humidifier for the last week and change. My fiance had her tonsils out and it dries up the throat. So I have a very heavy duty humidifier, like a 5-gallon one that I've just been blasting. And I spend a lot of time in South Florida. So actually it really feels like I'm in like Fort Lauderdale right now. Like light is refracting off of the steam in here. So, ideal streaming conditions. So if I'm sweating or if I'm doing this, and for listeners, doing this is me waving my hand like I have a fan in it. That's just because I'm very, very warm right now.
Drew, you can move back a little bit, by the way. Jason moved you into the camera.
Oh, nice.
But
nice. And you can still hear me good?
I can hear you great.
Perfect.
Here's the thing, Drew. Somebody asked this. Brett is basically at hedonism too. I will answer that question from the chat. That's basically where he's at. He will be here Sunday night. Then I'm going to take off. No, I'm kidding. I'll be there Sunday night too. But Drew, you should just move back to. You lived in Ohio for a period of time, right?
No, all of our family is based in Ohio, but I never lived there. I spent a ton of time in Hillsborough and Findlay and Dayton. So, I've been in and out of Columbus too. So, I've been wanting to come up for one of the Columbus live shows because I can take all of my extended family to the live show and completely alienate them.
Well, I was just gonna say you can get humidity for free here in Ohio. It is incredible the amount of humidity you can get.
Is it sweltering right now?
No, it's beautiful right now. I actually would love to complain about the weather here, but it is right now outside it is 67 degrees at night, and it was 78 today. So very rare for this city, but for this state, but the weather is very comfortable, so I'm very happy about that. But yeah, so Drew is one of the 4 writers. We wrote this fucking TV show with 4 writers, okay?
Yeah.
4 people, and I think it's really good. And also we had Simone on last week, so I thought I would. That's what I was like. Well, we had Simone on. We have to give Drew equal time.
Thank you so much, and I appreciate it because if I'm not mistaken, Simone was nominated for an Emmy or was involved in an Emmy thing recently for something she just worked on. So it feels good to be peers with Simone. Writing on Street Fight TV show, probably my favorite writing job I've had, just because it's just nice to work in an environment that doesn't have, I don't want to say the stink of like a writer's room, but there's a certain process by things that like traditional TV or streaming does. And it's very nice just to be like, well, if all of our friends like it, it's funny, it's in. It's just like not this sort of preciousness. I think that's a good way to make things, is not by, pitching things around to like 13 people.
Yeah. I mean, that was like, it sounds like a nightmare to write on a big, full writing staff, I guess, like a 13-person or whatever writing staff. It would have been nice maybe to have a few more people just to make it easy, but we wrote way more than we needed.
Yeah, there's a lot of good stuff that we never shot, or maybe if you guys get down to LA, we'll do. We were just talking about that because you guys are about ready to get back on the road.
I know. September 16th in Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania. Street Fight Live for the first time. Well, okay. Now that is kind of fucked up because we're trying to book something here before that happens.
First road gig, not home. Like you guys are going away.
Yeah, we might do one here and maybe in another part of Ohio before. But yeah, Pittsburgh, here's what I'm going to say. Pittsburgh is going to be the official first Street Fight Live show. Anything that happens before that is unofficial and doesn't count. So that's all set up now. I have one more live thing to plug. It's not ours. But Brett sent me this today, right before we recorded. Our friend Lermworm and Obelisk, two people that do really good art for us, and they do a lot of art, are doing a thing in Providence, Rhode Island called Providence Art Revolt, Saturday, July 24th, 3 p.m. to midnight at Revival Brewery at 50 Sims Avenue. It's an outdoor exhibition of art and music, and you can see some of our people that do some of the art for us there. So, and they have food vendors, cold beer, more food, it says, zero tolerance policy for harassment, so that's nice. And so that's the art gallery thing. So go to that if you're in Providence. And
have you ever been to Rhode Island, Brian?
We had a date booked but didn't make it, but we're going to honor that date at some point. So I hear
it's super cool. I hear everyone I know from there is like really chill and fun. So I'm sure doubly true for the show. And I mean the street art, the street fight art is great. So everyone should definitely go check that out.
They should. So what are we doing here tonight? We got some news. I think I need to do this first because number one, I had meant to do this story back on Sunday, not the full story, not like a full read of a fucking story, because like I am it's the call-in show. It's not something we really do on there, but it is still going on. So it's important, I think, that we hit this right off the bat. And it's this is a Jacobin article, Jacobin, whatever. I'm not, you know what? If you make fun of me for saying Jacobin, that's just you looking like a fool.
Hey, everyone should just be happy that we're reading it.
Well, I got this piece from Alex Press, who is a wonderful friend of ours, will probably be at the Pittsburgh Live show. Just a great person.
Yeah,
love hanging out with them.
Shout out to Alex.
Yeah. So here we go. At the Frito-Lay production plant in Topeka, Kansas, workers are subjected to something called suicide shifts, in which they come in for 8 hours, are forced to work 4 more hours, and then are called in 4 hours early, leaving them only 8 hours off between shifts. This is how the company forces overtime, to the point that many of those workers say they work 12 hours a day, 7 days a week, with some not having had a full day off in without having a day off in 5 months, weekends included. Drew, I want to ask this first. How bad do Fritos have to be made?
Yeah, it's such what I mean, first of all, one of the most popular food brands in the world. They can give people time off. They can bring in more people. They can pay them more. If there's any company that's in good standing to treat their workers right, it is Fritos, Lay's, PepsiCo, all those brands. And I gotta say, the workers have called a boycott of Frito-Lay products. And I gotta admit, this is the hard one. This is like it's like, oh shit, I can't buy chips anymore. And I'm doing it. Like, I've had to stop myself a couple of times, because this isn't like, okay, because in LA, the fancy ass hotel Chateau Marmont has a picket line out of it, and they're asking people not to go, which is a fairly big deal because, it's a fancy place, things like that. But I wasn't going to go anyway. So it's very easy for me to be like, oh, yeah, I won't go. Oh, darn, I guess I'm not going to spend $1,000. But like Fritos, I'm at the gas station. I'm at the sandwich shops, and I have to like look at the bags. And I've been just like getting anything that's not. So, yeah, fucking give the workers what they want. You can they have so many brands. They have so many, like all of the Pizza Hut and Taco Bell, Pepsi, all of them. They got enough. They got enough.
I mean, that's the thing that stinks about this world. I mean, basically the kind of capitalism we have, where it's like they talk about people that love capitalism, people that are like, capitalism's great, it breeds competition and innovation. It's like, how come like 60% of the snacks at the store are made by the same people? Like, I'm gonna have to start making my own Funyuns.
Yeah, well, I mean, it's the mirror of what every single like conservative weirdo who goes to Cuba and then shows like a picture of like every can of bean being the same kind of beans, or just any country where it's just like, oh yeah, there's only one kind. It's like, we already have that, except it's just like, oh, different flavors. It's just like Frito-Lay's has different brands they can put shit under, you know.
Yeah,
but yeah,
it's the in the Freedom Under Capitalism video that we did with Means TV. There's a line in there where I say, like, you know, people are so impressed with our cereal aisles in the United States, and like, when I look at the cereal aisle now, it's just like a bunch of boxes of corn and sugar.
It's just General Mills. Yeah,
it's not a bunch of different things. Really, I mean, look, I'm not like being snobby when it comes to cereal or snacks, because I gotta say, I'm with you in this. This Frito-Lay thing is really tough. I even had to go
tough on us. We're really breaking our backs here.
The white trash thing about me was that I had to go check and see, because the Starbucks label was on the PepsiCo sign, and I got super nervous because, like, look, I know it's not good, but I stop there every day to get a cold brew every single day. It's just, there's enough of them.
I got points to prove. Yes. You know, I mean,
exactly.
Listen, I would love to be able to stop by every single cafe in Los Angeles. And I have one of my best friends in the whole wide world. I'm going to his wedding. He's like, and he will say this, he's a huge coffee snob. It's in like, I'm working with him right now. So I'll get my Starbucks and I'll just like kind of like jam it as fast as I can before he gets in. It's like, he's going to just like rip on me for drinking. I also like shitty coffee. I like an acrid taste on my tongue. You know, I like burnt beans. So
their cold brew makes my whole face feel like it has little pins and needles on it. And most small cafes sell cold brew in very small cups. Like, their sizes are like a lot smaller, and I like a big fat cup. So I Googled Starbucks to find out, and because I was like, the PepsiCo doesn't own Starbucks, and luckily they don't own Starbucks. But if you're honoring the boycott, you can't buy any of the Starbucks products in the gas station.
Okay, like, those are Pepsi. So like, if I went to like and got those little like Nilla things,
yes,
I can't do it. Okay,
no, not allowed to do that, because PepsiCo does make those, and the union hasn't officially asked for a boycott, by the way, but the workers are saying, the workers on the picket lines are actually saying like, hey, you know, we would like it if you boycotted this, if not just for the fact that they might be able to get some time off if they don't have to make it.
It's like no one buys it, and then, oh yeah, everything grinds through a halt. Well, also, like, how far in advance do they have to make those chips? Because I remember during COVID, like during like the beginning of COVID, I was walking to my gas station every night and getting a bag of chips, and I would get the Doritos, and on it would be like Wonder Woman in theaters now, and I was just like, no, that's not true, man. That's not happening. We don't. But it was like, oh, they had to have like had this in production for like a minute. Like, so I wonder if like it's not going to be felt until like, you know, October.
My Google info, you know how when you open the Google app on your phone, it gives you stories it thinks you're like really interested in. Yeah. Like right now, I have Uber and Lyft drivers are on strike today. The Most Beautiful Towns in Ohio, which I don't know why I would necessarily have to read that. And Dwayne Johnson disses Vin Diesel in Fast and Furious. So like, but a lot of times my news, because I see these fucking MCU movies, right?
Yeah, you're like super into them. I feel like in the group chat, you're always talking about what's happening in Loki, and I feel like you're the only person I know who like is just like, actually no, I know a lot of people, but like you're like one of the people who's like will own the fact that you watch the Marvels.
I'm a sicko in much the same way that I am with Mancow, Opie, any of those guys. In the Marvel movies, even worse, because I'm not going to do anything about them on the show. I just feel like I have to watch them. Like 10 years ago, or 20 years ago, Survivor was on. I remember when Survivor came out and everybody was talking about Survivor and you wanted to know what was going on with Survivor. The Marvel movies have replaced all of that now, and that's all everybody knows. Like most people know the Marvel movies, so it's like a really easy small talk thing.
Yeah,
but
that's smart. I never thought about it as just like, oh, if I was like, I don't know, on a long cab ride or just like stuck in line somewhere, I can just strike up what's happening in Black Widow.
Yeah, but some of the news I get on Google a lot of times is like, spoiler, the new villain for Shang-Chi was featured on a bag of chips that somebody caught a picture of in the plant. So a lot of times, like scoops for the MCU come on bags of chips months and months and months before the movie's released. So that's like a whole marketing strategy for them now.
That's what the picketers should do, is just like threaten to like just take all the photos of all the upcoming like ad tie-ins and just wreck their fucking like tie-ins with all the other like media companies.
I like that. They should do that. So the company recently sent us a letter saying those shifts are called squeeze shifts, but none of us had ever heard that term before, said Samuel Huntsman, who has worked at the plant for 3 years. I think they're just trying to make it sound better. What prompted the
They just don't want to call it suicide anymore.
And they called it suicide shifts, dude.
Yes,
you fucking
of course
know.
They did. Everyone called everything suicide shifts until like someone like, you know, in gym class when they were like, we're gonna run you up against the walls back and forth when you've been misbehaving. They called it suicide. It's like we like nothing good is like named that other than like maybe mixing a bunch of no, because it's like you could get a shitty drink if you mix it all together. Like but also a squeeze shift like also is not any better. I mean that's like just like oh god, just like because like people kill each other, not each other, but they kill themselves like on factory lines when they've been overworked and underpaid and under benefited. Like so I mean it's a real thing. So it's just like, you know, all those companies got to be like, when was the last time we talked about the suicide shift? Maybe we can change it to something else.
Well, when I worked, anytime I worked at any of my more blue collar jobs, there were, and you know, of course I can't think of a specific right now, but there was always slang around the office that the managers fucking used too. Like this, maybe the official thing in the employee handbook doesn't say you have to work suicides, but when people find out they have to work suicides, I am sure a manager comes up to them and saying, hey, we're doing suicides this week. And it just, because they don't expect the culture of the warehouse to ever make it out of the warehouse. So there's probably a lot of shit going on there that is just the same as that. There's probably tons of like different slang and stuff like that that's happening in that warehouse that hasn't even gotten out yet.
Yeah.
And it's just embedded in the culture of the company. I mean, if you're running shifts like that, I worked at a warehouse, a Bath and Body Works warehouse back when I was like 19 or 20. And I was a temp. So they didn't really have much power over me. I mean, working as a temp is like a double-edged sword because they can just let you go for nothing. They can just be like, well, you're out of here, or if you become a hassle, they can make you leave. But to me, that felt like I could be like, well, fuck it. I don't care about this job. They don't care about me. So I wouldn't work the mandatory overtime. But when I was working there, the entire time I was there, it was 7 days a week. It wasn't 12 hours those 7 days a week, but there were guys that did work 12 hours 7 days a week. Like there are guys in every warehouse that will work every single minute that you give them, that you make available. And businesses are evil, but they shouldn't be like, they encourage that behavior, which does lead people to have heart attacks. That is not good for you.
Oh yeah, you're just like your pulmonary system is just getting entirely fucked. I mean, even beyond warehouses, I mean, in entertainment, there's been so much about like doubles and things like that, of like insane hours or like 20-hour shoots, and then like how much time you'd get in between, because a lot of these shoots are like an hour or two away from the city, and you have people like working as like transpo, or they themselves are driving themselves, and if you're working like a 20-hour day and then going home at 5 a.m. and like sometimes previously it would be like, okay, your next call is at like 11 a.m. after getting off at 5. It's like you're getting people who are fucking loopy and sleep deprived. I mean, truckers now can't work past a certain point, or they're not supposed to, or else their like cab will start dinging, and like, but a warehouse where you're just like working around like heavy equipment, it's just like, oh yeah, fingers crossed nothing bad happens.
Somebody in the chat asked, I gotta look at it. Pizza Coffee Weed in the chat just said, what do you say to people who say the Lay's stories are just exaggerations by disgruntled employees? I say that these people still work at the fucking factory. Sure, maybe they are disgruntled right now, but they are not people who are walking out of the fucking warehouse. They're striking, but you know what I mean? Like, disgruntled would mean that like they quit, or that the company fucked them over and the company fucked them over and they quit. The company fucked them over and fired them. And then they just say a bunch of random things about the company. But these people still work there. Like this, as Mark McCarter, a 59-year-old palletizer and union steward at the plant who has worked there for 37 years, told Vice, it seems like I go to one funeral a year for someone who's had a heart attack at work, or someone who went home to their barn and shot themselves in the head or hung themselves. Forced overtime interferes with your health and your household, explains Huntsman. It leads to fights on the shop floor, too, he adds, with workers getting in arguments because they are so cranky and mad and tired. Others at the plant have spoken of divorces caused by the schedules, in addition to the suicides. Workers say they have urged Frito-Lay to hire new workers to lighten the load, but that the company hasn't budged. I think the only argument you could make, and I'm not making this argument because it's fucking bullshit, because I read what people are making. I will get that. I'll get that actually from the Vice article. I'll go to the Vice article, but they aren't willing to pay enough to get people. It's just, they're not hiring people, because once you have a crew at a fucking job that you are that the company is comfortable with, they don't fucking care what the employees on the shop floor think about who they should hire or how many people they should hire, because a Frito-Lay plant in Topeka, Kansas probably has a ton of people applying for it. I know if it was here, I would fucking be applying for, I mean, if I'm 22 and the Frito-Lay plant is near where I grew up, I would fucking go work at that I would apply there. But they're not hiring. They're probably not hiring people. They probably have stacks of fucking applications.
This is the thing about like that whole like, oh, what do you say about like people who might be like, oh, these are just disgruntled employees? I guess like I would say, yeah, and so like, yeah, of course they'd be disgruntled, but they're telling you what they're not getting. I mean, if everyone was just like polite and like happy as can be, then there would be no actual like changes. If the union was able to bargain for anything, like there would actually be like no need for this. So it's just like a very strange, Amazon does it a lot too with their like weird Twitter bot army, where like, they're like, just like, these are a lot of agitators. It's like, yeah, because they're telling you what they need. Yeah. And like, it's like I don't understand why that's like, it's like being like, yeah, boy, those people who are striking and on the picket line sure do seem pissed off and unpleasant. It's like, yeah, of course they are. Like, it's like, but it is that interesting thing where, yeah, you have people who have been there for so long and the company knows like, well, you hire a bunch of people from outside, either one of two things happens. One is that those people who they hire will be desperate and will do whatever, or they're going to ask for actual changes to the working conditions, and then you have to give it to everyone. But like, yeah, that like, I don't know.
Well, that, like, also, Drew, when we talk about like maybe this is disgruntled workers like complaining, I should put this out there. In its latest contract offer, Frito-Lay has said it would raise wages by 4% over the next 2 years and put a cap at 60 hours a week. So, I mean, it has to be really fucking bad if you have to cap the overtime at 60 hours a week.
Yeah. And like, just because people will do that work and there are people who like need that work doesn't mean there shouldn't be like, third rails in place to ensure that like nothing dangerous is going to happen. I mean, of course, people who really need something will put themselves in danger. I have I don't want to overstate this, but I have a relative who worked for like 20 years at a printing factory in California, and he would do the doubles and he would do like really long shifts. And he was just like trying to like being like, I'm going to put the pedal to the metal. I'm going to get my pension early. I'm going to work these hours. I'm going to accrue overtime. And last year, like he had like a fainting spell in the plant, and he had like a spike in, blood pressure, and he had like a surgery and he died. And I'm not saying inherently that was because of the printing company. To the best of my knowledge, he really did love his job, but like he also was like trying to like really push the edge of the hours they would give him. And I don't think that was at the very least conducive to his health. So like, just because someone will work that hard doesn't mean that like the bad conditions are okay. It means that like those conditions need to be like improved, so like those people don't have to do doubles and collect 60 hours of overtime pay. It's like, oh, if you want to get overtime, hopefully you won't have to do 60 hours.
Yeah. I mean, somebody in the chat even said like, I'm that person, and I've worked with so many people. I think I've told this on the air before, but back when I was at the cable company, I had been there for like 4 years, and they instituted on call. Now, one of the reasons I got this job is because they didn't have on call. You didn't have to be on call ever. That wasn't a part of the job.
So why do you need to be on call for a cable company? On call is what doctors and surgeons and like healthcare professionals who have to like be ready to save someone's life. Like I've been like, I've texted like Comcast at like 2 a.m., but like that doesn't mean there needs to be someone ready.
Yeah. Well, imagine also I mean, just think about how bad the cable companies have to be if they have people on call. Like, how bad is the fucking service if there are people ready to respond to emergencies at all time and they still don't get things done and people still hate them? But when they added the on call, there was this fucking guy that worked there that would pay you $100 for your on call week. So because you got $100 for being on call. So the week you're on call, you got $100, and then whatever time and a half you got after you worked over those hours. So there was this guy, dude, every 4 weeks, I sold him my on call for $100, and he was making a shitload of money. Like,
so was he covering really multiple on calls at once? Like, he would be like, this week I'm gonna have like Brian's and Chris's and Kevin's.
Well, we would only have one person on call for each department. So he covered multiple weeks of on call in a row. Like, he would cover months and months and months. He would be one of, I think it was 2 people on call at a time. Months and months and months. He would do on calls. He'd be one of the guys on call. And I just remember, like, he's like, I'm saving for a house. And it's just like, this isn't worth it, dude. It's not worth it.
Yeah. I mean, best of luck to anyone who feels like they have to do it. And, like, you know, it's no skin. It's not their fault or problem. Like, if you're picking up these doubles or, like, you know, this overtime and a half, but, like, it's the responsibility of the company to make sure that no one's going to do anything that could put them in, like, precarity. And if the floor for, like, what your company pays to full-time employees isn't enough, then that needs to be raised so that there aren't, like, these gambits people have to make that could potentially kill them.
Yeah. So here's a little bit about the working conditions at the Frito-Lay's factory. He says, this is not a good job. At 7 a.m., our warehouse is 100 degrees. We don't have air conditioning. We have cooks in the kitchen on the fryers that are 130 or 140 degrees, making chips and sweating like pigs. Meanwhile, the managers have AC. I make $20.50 an hour after 37 years. Most people make between $16.50 and $20 an hour. I haven't gotten a raise in a decade. 3 years ago, I got a $600 bonus that was taxed, and 3 years before that, I got another $600 bonus. That was my raise for the past 10 years. This is from a Fortune 500 company that is making billions. I can tell you many people have had heart attacks in the heat at Frito-Lay since I've been here. One guy died a few years ago, and the company had people pick him up, move him over to the side, and put another person in his spot without shutting the business down for 2 seconds. So, I mean, oh, and here's another part, and this is something me and Brett always bang on too. This used to be a bomb place to work. Older slang, it's fine. He's a 57-year-old man.
Yeah, you know? He's allowed to say bomb.
Yeah, we had picnics together. We'd go to worlds of fun together. We had community, lunch serve, Christmas ham, Thanksgiving turkey. We do all that. These days, we do absolutely nothing for employees. We work them, we send them home. It's demoralizing, and it's truly nuts how a Fortune 500 company can get away with this kind of foolishness. I stay here because in 2 years, I'll be 62, and I have a union pension acquired over 37 years. I've spent so much time here that I might as well take the pension and Social Security and call it quits. So, that is, and so he says, I think people were pushed to the edge. COVID created some of this. During COVID, managers got to work from home. People see that and realize they have other options. Everyone's hiring and raising their pay because no one wants to work for $8 an hour anymore. So we would rather nobody buy Frito-Lay's products, Doritos, Tostitos, Funyuns, Cheetos, and all those while we're on strike. We make all of those in Topeka, Kansas. We would also rather nobody buys PepsiCo products while we're on the line. PepsiCo is the owner of Frito-Lay. So, yeah, I mean, that's the hardest. the only luck there is that the boycott, I mean, it's not getting a lot of big press outside of kind of online circles of people who care about labor issues and stuff. But at least you could you can always just not eat stuff made by Frito-Lay. That is like a thing that it's not like they're asking you to boycott something that actually, like oranges or something like that.
They're not asking you not to take a specific route or bus route or taking a necessary service. It's a luxury to be able to eat Frito-Lays, and it is that kind of commodity fetishism where it's I when I'm hungry, when I'm hangry, I'm not thinking about what. Okay, I might as well be plucking it off the Fritos tree. I don't think about okay, the conditions of which the person who you're not thinking about the whole factory line. And what really struck me, I mean, there's so many things in that quote that struck me. The fucking managers having air conditioning. Wow. No one on, you should sit without air conditioning. It's just you should, it's make the fucking managers do it, or give everyone the air conditioning. But also it's so as someone who's a millennial, that sort of company pride and being oh yeah, there used to be something of company culture that wasn't mandatory or forced by oh, we're making everyone do these awful HR events. It's I mean, because you hear people talk about, you hear the silent generation or boomers talk about oh yeah, my dad was a Maytag man and he was so proud to be a Maytag man. And it's that sounds inconceivable that someone would be so happy with their job in a company like that they would actually had pride in being oh yeah, I'm a Marathon Oil guy.
Yeah, because they did. I mean, people that got those sort of middle class blue collar jobs did get paid well.
And it's because of the unions. It's because they had stronger labor. They had stronger unions at that time, and they fought for it, and they got it. And so they without being oh yeah, it was Maytag or Marathon Oil. No, it was the labor that actually made it so that it was actually able to work with dignity.
Oh no, I just found something out though.
Oh
okay.
No.
Okay. One of my regular things that oh no, this is bad. I did not know that Pepsi bought the 7-Up Corporation. Oh, outside of the US. Okay. Thank fucking God.
You're a 7-Up man.
I'm a diet 7-Up.
Diet 7-Up. Okay. I don't think I've ever had diet 7-Up.
It's so good. I don't know why I drink a 7-Up every day.
Was that originally Orlando Jones?
Yeah. I think it was Orlando Jones. I'm fairly certain it was him.
Now we're just reminiscing on commercials we like from PepsiCo. This is how they win. It sucks.
Yeah,
but my entire family
scared me though.
Yeah, my entire family and my fiance love Diet Pepsi, which to me is psychotic.
I love it too. That's my other favorite.
How Diet Pepsi tastes like just ground up saltines and batteries. It hurts.
Yeah, I don't like Coke at all. I am a Pepsi man through and through, which now I have to stop being for at least the time being. But if I have to pick between Pepsi, Coke, RC, name all of the colas, Boylan's, I'm gonna drink a Pepsi.
I'm unfamiliar with Boylan's.
Oh, that must be just out here. It's a craft soda company from New Jersey, and that's the fancy one. But yeah, I've always been into Pepsi. I've always been a Pepsi guy. I have like a real this is the other thing that makes me sound like an old man. I have a real sweet tooth, like the sweetest sweet tooth in the world. I had 3 drumsticks yesterday, which I shouldn't have done, but I did. So I have to admit that I did that.
You regularly get like cholesterol checked or anything like that?
I get my blood checked and stuff like that, but yeah. I just nothing's gonna stop me.
Yeah, I had my first like real like a doctor telling me, yo, your cholesterol sucks last year. And so as a result, I've been really like working hard not to eat like bready, fatty. It's like I'm a vegetarian, you're vegan. I don't like drink. I don't have a lot of vices. So like snacky, fatty foods is like one of them. But like now I'm just like, oh yeah, egg whites, which like very like low in cholesterol.
Yeah, I've moved on to I've been doing a lot better at eating. I've had weaknesses lately with there's these drumsticks with these crunched up. Yeah. It's like Oreos, but it's like a dust. And it's the best texture I've ever had in my life. I just can't help it. It is the best texture for an ice cream novelty that I've ever had. So I guess if drumsticks is run by Frito-Lay,
I mean, I think it's Nestle, which is its own thing.
It's all evil. So, Drew, you sent me something today that I wanted to get into, and this is also good for workplace stuff. This is a very evil business. Okay.
Yeah. We're going to stay in the world of food. I've been obsessed with this for like maybe the last year. I don't know if any of our listeners are familiar with the Jimmy John's sandwich franchise.
We've talked about them on here a lot. Jimmy John's is a very evil sub franchise.
Okay, I don't know anything about their like day-to-day labor stuff. What sort of shitty things do they do?
Oh, they're really anti-union, low pay. I have to Google it, but we have actually had people call in that work at Jimmy John's, and like the IWW in Minneapolis was picketing them for a while for some stuff. It's just at this first hint of organizing the workers, they fire people, and it's just very low pay. I think they give tips, maybe, but yeah, they're well known, and their owner is just a huge piece of shit.
This makes a lot of sense because what I said was like, Brian, we got to talk about the signs at Jimmy John's. I haven't been to a ton of them, but like last year, my fiance was having some dental work done, and it was enough that like it was just like, yeah, you should probably get someone to drive you. So I would be like chilling in a neighborhood for like, you know, an hour at a time waiting to pick her up, and I would get a sandwich, and I was like, oh yeah, Jimmy John's. There's really not any in my neighborhood. And they have the usual, or you think usual bric-a-brac. You know, you go to TGI Fridays and there's like a classic Twister board or a stop sign or like, you know, a Perry Como album. And, you know, that sort of bric-a-brac is supposed to make you feel good and relax, like you're in someone's like basement or rumpus room. And Jimmy John's has something like that. They have, I hesitate to call them inspirational signs. What they are weird, scoldy, like yelling at you about working harder and how to like behave, that they have all across the store. Not even just for like, you know, workers. It's like if you're waiting for your sandwich, you have to read this like little like school marmish like vice principal like little sayings that they have plastered across as though it's like, you know, actual decorations.
So here I remember what the problem with Jimmy John's was. It was a non-compete. They made their employees sign non-competes.
Like they're like fucking actors who are like sports athlete, like you know. So it's like if I'm working at a Jimmy John's, I can't bop over to Quiznos because I'm gonna bring that. Well, what all could you bring? Like, oh, we layer the cheese on top of the lettuce. Like, what trade secrets are there?
It says in 2016, Jimmy John's got into some serious trouble over a pretty crazy non-compete clause they forced their workers to sign. According to Reuters, all employees were forced to sign a waiver as part of their hiring package, agreeing to not work for any other sandwich shop or deli within 2 to 3 miles of a Jimmy John's location.
Oh, God.
Not only was this clause in effect while they worked at Jimmy John's, but for 2 years following the end of their Jimmy John's employment.
Brian, you and I are big wrestling fans, and non-competes are always like something that like builds a lot of anticipation. Like, oh, a wrestler quit this one company, when are they going to debut into another? Oh, their non-competes up. And I'm just imagining someone's just like, oh yeah, Tyler's non-competes up from Jimmy John's soon. I hope he joins my local sub shop.
Well, the non-competes in wrestling are 30 or 90 days.
90 days, yeah. I don't know.
2 years.
Yeah, like it's like, God, that sucks so bad. And this makes a lot of sense. So the first sign, and you can just Google all of these, is like this cute little sign that says, if you do the things you need to do when you need to do them, then someday you can do the things you want to do when you want to do them.
Okay.
Cool.
Let me see. I gotta look at that again. Okay. If you do the things you need to do when you need to do them, then someday you can do the things you want to do when you want. That's not true, though. Yeah, that's never true.
It never is. And it's always like businesses that are always like, well, delay your gratification. It's going to be so much better when you work long enough. We were just talking about, good pensions and like waiting until you're 62 and just like, let's hope if you make it, and then you have like what, maybe 15 years of good living, like, but they're always like, yeah, grind now, like, relax later.
I mean, these signs are intended for the customers.
Yes,
which I think is a really also, weird strategy. It's like if somebody made a commercial where they were like bitching at you. Mm-hmm. Where like if McDonald's did a commercial where they were like, get up off your fucking ass and get here and get a fucking Big Mac, okay?
Yeah, it's like I'm buying a sandwich that can be made in like 5 minutes. That's going to be at least 3,000 calories or something. I'm not gonna like, you want me to skimp on the mayo? Like, what am I supposed to get from this? There's this one, which is like a bunch of little blocks, like kind of stacked up, that says, if you don't step forward, you're always in the same place. If you don't ask, the answer is always no. If you don't go after what you want, you'll never have it. Oh, unless you're an employee of Jimmy John's, then if you ask for shit or if you go for what you want, you're going to get like the boot on your fucking neck.
Yeah. Yeah. They don't want it is, if you work these, they should put at the bottom of these signs, like, these do not apply to the people that work here. You need to understand that these signs
strive more.
Yeah. These signs are meant for the customers, not for you. Don't you ask for anything. Like they probably don't want you asking for a raise. But I guess they should have they probably have the same sign in the break room that says, if you ask for a raise, the answer is always no.
Oh, then this next one is like, just makes me feel awful. To serve you better, speak clearly, which
that's several things.
Yeah.
But that could be like so many things. But in the end, it's rude, and I'm trying to be as delicate as I can, but there are so many occasions.
I'll say it like this: anytime that someone complains on how someone else doesn't speak clearly or they can't understand them, chances are like the actual intent behind that is pretty fucking awful.
Yeah,
Like, you can just be pretty safe. It's not saying for sure what the area lands in. It can be in many other things. Also, like, I'm a mush mouth. Like, I sometimes don't speak clearly. But like, oh man, just like, okay, yeah, thank you. I guess I'll enunciate while I go into Jimmy John's. I'll take my diction class so I can ask for the number 7.
Right. I mean, and you got to think about it like this. 99% of the customers that come into Jimmy John's do speak clearly, and they want to get their order across, and they want to explain what they want so that they get the right thing. Maybe consider that the 1 or 2% of people who aren't speaking clearly could have a disability, it could literally fucking be a million different things. Yeah. Why make them feel bad?
I'm sure anyone who knows that sometimes they may not be understood always feels super good about it and definitely wants to have attention drawn to it.
Yes. Yeah.
Then this next one's a classic. The only thing that separates successful people for the ones who aren't is the willingness to work very, very hard.
It's so funny. I mean, it's so funny to have signs, like basically signs all over your Jimmy John's, all over your business that are just telling you, like, you know, what you ought to think about is working really hard.
Yeah. Just like, I mean, and that's the thing. It is like, it's not like 1 or 2 of these signs. It's like plastic. You're looking at like 30 signs. It's impossible to take them in all at once. So it's just like this super overwhelming feeling of being surrounded by someone who's screaming at you. But it's just like, I don't want to work very, very hard. Like,
no, nobody does.
If I wanted to work hard, I'd make my own damn sandwich.
Yeah, like, the Jimmy John's guy that runs Jimmy John's, here's what I think. I think that maybe there are people, I think, who work super hard to get where they're at. They don't have any advantages. They get where they are all on their just hard work. They grind it out and they do hard work. Those people are fucking freaks. Okay.
Yeah.
And like, most people are not those people, and they should, you know, they're the ones that are freaks. It's not people who want to just fucking coast. I want to coast. I've always wanted to coast. I think if I had to guess, 80% of people want to coast and then 20% want to work.
Let people coast. It's fine.
Yeah. Somebody in the chat also mentioned speak clearly is code for without a thick accent as well.
Definitely.
So that's also true. That is another thing.
I have not seen the Jimmy John guy's Wikipedia page, and it's both surprising to me and also it's not. Like, have
you seen him laying naked with the shark?
I'm sorry, what?
He's a big game hunter.
I did see a part that said hunting.
Yeah, he's killed some pretty endangered, not endangered like officially on the endangered list, but he's killed things, you know, that people don't want to be killed, like lions and shit like that. And he caught a shark of some sort or some giant fish, and he laid down on the floor of the boat naked next to it. And there is the pictures out there everywhere.
Cool. I'm excited to look that up. Oh, he also has a world famous yacht named Rock.it. It looks like him. That seems like a bad startup.
I mean, think about a business who's only, this is what you got to think about with Jimmy John's, a business whose only whose celebrity endorsement is done by Brock Lesnar.
Yeah,
that is that's all you have to think about when it comes to Jimmy John's, is like, oh, okay, this is a weird business.
Yeah. Well, also, I think maybe I'm just like the part of my brain that has like Papa John's like kind of sectioned off. I'm like, the other shoe has to fall with this guy at some point.
He's
Like,
been
right?
in a lot of trouble.
Right,
He
but
has
like
he's
the next step, and I
yeah.
don't want to speculate on what that next step
He
is.
has to do something. He has to either get me too'd or do something racist, probably,
Yeah,
because he is like a super well-known, Trump guy, conservative guy type of thing. And like he so like those people are almost uncancelable in a way. Like it's the same thing as Papa John. Papa John didn't get canceled
well,
at all.
Papa John. The thing is that he had a big enough company that other people like on the board could push him out on, and that's how, like, to the extent that he can get canceled. I don't know if there's a board of executives or a board of directors for Jimmy John's where if Jimmy John does something fucked up, they're gonna be like, we gotta cut ties with Jimmy John.
I mean, Papa John 100% like got what he deserved in every aspect of what happened to him.
Mhm.
I wish he would have lost a lot of his money and had to live just a normal person's life, but like he 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 said something racist on a call to his board of directors. Now, he didn't have to have a board of directors. Like Papa John's didn't need to be a place that had a board of directors, but he decided to do that. So him getting fired just all around makes me happy.
Yeah, well, and it's funny that you mention like cancellation, because the next one just feels like the thing people say on Twitter when they're not happy with people's apologies. But it goes, proper apologies have three parts. One, what I did was wrong. Two, I feel badly that I hurt you. And three, how can I make this better? Which, why is that in your sandwich shop for everyone to stare at so that they can learn how to tell a proper apology? And also, I guarantee you, Jimmy John has never apologized like that.
No, I mean, honestly, nobody does.
No one ever
I
does.
mean, people who are worried for their career, like people that stand to lose a lot. Somebody like Louis C.K. doesn't even apologize like that. And like things could have been easier for him if he had done that. Like nobody apologizes like that. It's just not a natural thing. People do things. A lot of times they feel like they're right. And a lot of times they feel like they're right, but the part where it says, how can I make this better, is it's a step too far for your boss to be saying.
Yeah,
I guess.
Yeah, I don't think it. Yeah, Jimmy John is not looking to make amends, and if so, it certainly isn't his employees or many of the brilliant animals he's murdered.
Yeah.
I'm sure he would apologize to like another like wealthy dude on his yacht that he like farted in front of. Like maybe that's what he would apologize for, but he's not going to apologize to anyone who works at Jimmy John's.
No, for making 2-year non-competes for a sandwich store.
My bad. I need to step away from organizing within the Jimmy John's community. I need to reflect and grow.
This next sign,
yeah,
Drew,
this one makes
crazy.
me so mad.
Eating
at Jimmy John's, a comprehensive guide to etiquette. A comprehensive guide to etiquette and eating at fucking Jimmy John's. We're not talking about a fancy restaurant. It's like the name of the restaurant is Jimmy John. Like it's like supposed to be a fun, relaxed place. You're not supposed to feel like, oh, I need to, like, it's like you just eat they make sloppy sandwiches that are like too big so that you feel like stuffed afterwards. But there's
something so fucking shitty about these signs in a way that, like, when you look at the shit hanging on the wall at Applebee's, it's like this place looks like shit. There's like sleds and shit hanging on the wall, whatever, but it's not offensive. This stuff, it's so weird to choose. Like, don't restaurants, can you do me a favor? I know I've always said the only thing I don't want you to do is do a sex restaurant. I don't like sex restaurants. I generally don't eat them, but don't be funny either. You just don't have it in you.
This is like the opposite. Are you familiar with, it's a small chain, the restaurant Dick's Last Resort? It's a restaurant and bar. Like Dick's Last Resort, the whole like gimmick is that like people are mean to you. So like your waiter and like bartender's always like, hey, dum dum, hey fatty, like you want something to eat? Guess what? You're gay. And I'm not exaggerating when I'm like, that's the kind of burns they do. This is the opposite, where it's just like, oh, I didn't expect to be scolded when I wanted to get my sandwich. But anyway, the don'ts. Don't talk with your mouth full. Don't play with your food. Don't whistle annoying songs that will get stuck in other people's heads. Don't swim for 30 minutes after a meal. Don't stare. Don't ask kids to pull your finger. Don't carve your initials into things that do not belong to you. Don't taunt vegetarians. Don't use foul language unless you're telling a foul joke. Don't mess around with Jim. Don't pick your teeth or anything else. Don't bring Jimmy John's back home unless you have enough to share. And don't take stuff too seriously.
Can I just say, the one that made me, well, the one that makes me sick is don't use foul language unless you're telling a foul joke, which that I don't know why, but that just annoyed me. Like, because it was like a real elbowing you in the ribs kind of joke. But the one that I don't know why this got me, but don't carve your initials into things that do not belong to you. Had this probably hung in the first Jimmy John's. Like he put his tables out, some teen carved his initials into it, and he just got fucking so hot under the collar. He's like, I'm gonna go get a sign printed.
Now that sign was very long, but what if I were to tell you that that is at least only the fourth longest sign I could find about Jimmy John's?
I know there's this one here that says how much is enough that I think might be
it's a short
craziest
story.
thing.
Yeah. He has one called How'd I Live My Life by Richard Branson, which is just like a bunch of dumb platitudes.
Yeah, Richard Branson, the space guy. I mean,
boy,
first guy in space.
Way to go, dude. He doesn't know dick about making sandwiches, so I don't know why like his stuff. You know, there's one Dave Barry, you know, kind of silly old guy stuff.
He's conservative, isn't he?
Okay.
Hold on, I'll look, because Dave Barry, I read all of his books when I was a kid. And then I remember one time after I had turned into kind of when I started getting a little bit radicalized, I read something that Dave Barry wrote, and I was like, holy fucking shit.
I would definitely be shocked if he had radical politics. Dave Barry's assistant once yelled at me, so I have a weird kind of thing. I called the person's cell phone, and apparently I wasn't supposed to do that when I was trying to book Dave Barry on a job. So I don't know if he's a nice dude or not. It's weird that he had a TV show or
Libertarian Dave's World.
Yeah, that makes sense. Dave, it's just like, yeah, the cranks nowadays don't get TV. No one's like, oh, it's cute how this old guy like bitches a bunch. Let's give him his own sitcom.
Yeah, and the thing about it is like, yeah, if you're a humorist in a newspaper, it like feels like that has to be the most lib job in the whole world. So it is kind of weird, but he probably made a shitload of money, dude. My dad had like 20 fucking books by this guy, and I would
but before the internet, I think people who weren't born before, like they were born after like 1989, then they don't understand that there was like 20 years before the internet was huge, where like these books were all you could read. It's like, you want to read something funny, here's a collection of Dave Barry, or here's like a collection of Dennis Miller, or here's like I love going to like old like bookstores like out kind of far out from LA, because they always have like really good like old humor books, because like all they are books that like someone donated after an old guy died, so you can find all these books at old bookstores. But the Dave Barry one isn't very special.
You know, can I tell you, like,
yes,
I have a very it's called the Trustworthy Encyclopedia. It is a website that I go to quite often called Conservapedia. And I went to Conservapedia to check on Dave Barry, and it says Dave Barry is an American Pulitzer Prize winning humor columnist and author whose works are often depicted as offering entertaining insight into serious problems. It has been debated whether or not Dave Barry is conservative, but this could be observed from his news related columns as gathered in his History of the Millennium. So they're taking him, you know.
Yeah, I think that's like, if you ever read like the top 20 like best conservative movies, it's always just like whatever they want. They're always like, it's a wonderful life as conservative because the guy loves his family and his job, and it's like, what the fuck are you talking
Oh God,
about?
I read a list of jokes on Conservapedia, conservative jokes, and me and Brett along, I think a year or two ago, were reading conservative parables off of Conservapedia. But the jokes, Drew, were some of the worst jokes I have ever heard. Now I'm going to say one here.
Okay.
What do you call a conservative accountant?
A millionaire. I don't know.
Anne Bean Coulter. So like that's an impossible. That is that,
you know
to
what
me.
I think that little list of like conservative jokes on Conservapedia is, it's a false flag so that someone can be like, hey, conservative jokes aren't just racist. No, like, here you go. See, nice, clean humor. Like,
Oh,
because
no.
it's like they actually had like their favorite conservative jokes, it would be appalling.
Actually, there's one that says something like, "What would a liberal do?" I'll get them up here real quick because it's like, what would a liberal call the day after Thanksgiving? What would a liberal store call the day after Thanksgiving? Blacks Only Friday.
Cool. That felt good to hear.
Yeah, Conservapedia.
I didn't just have like my stomach drop. Just like
oh, here it is. Here's a person reading conservative joke page. Why do relativity deniers think puns are so funny? They still think of puns as one of the four humors.
Okay, cool.
Why did Westminster University give Richard Dawkins an honorary degree?
Because he doesn't believe in God.
They thought he was the guy from Family Feud.
Okay, sure. I mean, there's even like, you could even do Richard Branson for that joke, and I feel like, oh, it would like make more sense. They were like, oh, they thought he was the guy who made Virgin Atlantic. He's like, there's now been like, oh man.
I got another one for you.
Yeah.
How this is so bad. What God-inspired physicist can be eaten as a snack?
I don't know.
Isaac Fig Newton.
Yeah.
I mean, these are like high level bad. It's
do they think was Isaac Newton conservative?
They say he's God inspired.
God inspired. Okay.
Which
yeah.
is okay.
I mean,
everybody was
back then. Yeah.
There's one more. Here's one more. I hope global warming is real. Those snowflakes will melt in the politically incorrect heat. So
that's a little bit of a hat on the hat. It could have just been like the snowflakes would melt in the heat. Like, you don't need the politically incorrect heat. Like,
no, but
tighten it up.
Really. So there's a Dave Barry sign, a Richard Branson one. Is the how much is it's author unknown.
Author unknown. It's Jimmy John. Let's face it.
Yeah.
Okay, so do you want to read it or should I?
I can do it.
Okay.
The American investment banker was at the pier of a small coastal Mexican village when a small boat with just one fisherman docked. Inside the small boat were several large fin tuna. The American complimented the Mexican on the quality of his fish and asked how long
Oh
it took to
boy.
catch them.
Oh
So
boy.
let me just say this. Why is it an American investment banker? Like,
Yeah. I
like,
mean,
why is that important? Like,
it does factor in a bit.
oh,
It
okay.
does. But already, I'll say this: this gets bad. It doesn't get as bad as what you're thinking, but it's yeah.
So the Mexican replied, only a little while. The American then asked, why didn't he stay out longer to catch more fish? The Mexican said he had enough to support his family and immediate needs. Intelligent. The American then asked, but what do you do with the rest of your time? The Mexican fisherman said, I sleep late, fish a little, play with my children, take siestas with my wife. Okay, this is getting racist.
Yeah.
My wife, Maria, stroll into the village each evening where I sip wine and play guitar with my amigos. I have a full and busy life. Now, they don't have to add like, he didn't say, if he's speaking English to you, he would have said friends. He wouldn't have said my amigos.
Yeah, no, that's true. Also, he probably would just say, I have better shit to do. Like,
yeah. I don't need to fish all day.
Brian, when someone's like, what do you do with the rest of your time when you're not working on Street Fight? Are you like, okay, first of all, I do this, then this, then this.
I wake up, I smoke, I take a shit, I eat it. Like, that is really what it would be.
Yeah.
The American scoffed. I am a Harvard MBA and could help you. You should spend more time fishing, and with the proceeds, buy a bigger boat. And with the proceeds from the bigger boat, you could buy several boats. Eventually, you would have a fleet of fishing boats. Instead of selling your catch to a middleman, you would sell directly to the processor, eventually opening your own cannery. You would control the product, processing, and distribution. You would need to leave this small coastal fishing village and move to Mexico City, then LA, and eventually New York City, where you will run your expanding enterprise. The Mexican fisherman asked, but how long will this all take? To which the American replied, 15 to 20 years. But what then? The American laughed and said, that's the best part. When the time is right, you would announce an IPO and sell your company stock to the public and become very rich. You would make millions. Millions, asked the fisherman. Then what? The American said, then you would retire, move to a small coastal fishing village where you would sleep late, fish a little, play with your kids, take siestas with your wife, stroll through the village in the evening, sip wine, and play your guitar with your amigos.
This makes me so fucking mad, because the whole like idea of this is like, the fisherman knows he has enough to like live a stable and happy life with like an enriched social life and like, hobbies, and there's no fucking way that Jimmy John's allows any of their workers enough that they could possibly enjoy like the flexibility to like enjoy their lives, and just be like, oh, I can kick off after my shift and just like enjoy myself. There's no, and also like all this like, oh, the American who wants to make an IPO. It's like, you own one of the world's biggest yachts named Rock It. Like, are you fucking like, you're not like, Jimmy John is neither of these guys. Jimmy John's is like the guy that the American has to report back to, and then like, he like laughs in his face and like ashes his cigar right onto his skin, because it's such a veneer of like, it's Mike Rowe shit, it is, you work hard, but it feels good and stuff like that, and it's respecting yourself and knowing when to, because it's like, work hard enough and whatever. It's like, like they have an that NDA thing, or that non-compete thing is still like buzzing my brain. It's like they do not they present all this shit and they offer no way for anyone who works there to actually achieve any of it.
Yeah. Yeah, I just looked up to see if Jimmy John's hung out with Mike Rowe ever. And I can't find one, unfortunately. But pretty shocked actually that they're not buddies. I mean, I think at least a lot of people know Jimmy John is super evil. So he doesn't have like the Mike Rowe kind of respectability.
Yeah,
But
he's not a media figure, really.
it would feel nice to, people are so hip to fucking Mike Rowe now that like it would be nice to keep hipping people the bad guys. And Jimmy John, maybe you already knew out there listening, but he's bad. I hate Jimmy John.
Is there an
Before
okay sub shop? Is there like one that like we can sign off on?
It's gonna have to be local, dude.
Yeah, go
There's just
local.
yeah, there's just I mean, I make my own subs, which I know sounds bad, like the way I'm saying it. Like it's like, oh, actually, I make my own sandwiches. But I also get them in Columbus, you can get them from local pizza shops. Um maybe, and I don't know for sure. It's just not an overtly in the news evil one. Jersey Mike's might.
I will eat at Jersey Mike's quite a bit. Let me see. What about Firehouse Subs? Isn't their gimmick they're owned by firemen?
Yeah, I mean they were started by firemen.
Okay, they're not. It's not a worker owned and operated situation.
No, they're. I mean, if you're a fucking, if you're running Firehouse Subs and you're still a fireman, like, I mean, that's the first thing you do is quit the fireman job once it gets.
Yeah, one job you can burn up in a fire, and the other one you make sandwiches.
Yeah, I think that their whole thing is also that they like donate parts of the profits to firefighter causes.
Yeah, that makes sense.
I don't really know. I'm not 100% sure what all of the fireman stuff is. Firehouse Subs. I don't know. I'm always like into like a regular sub from a pizza shop works for me usually. But also there's good subs at pizza shops around here. So it's not exactly one of those things that you can get anywhere. Like I'm sure there's probably not a great sub in like rural Montana. I bet you can't get that.
I mean, yeah, I'm sure a lot of places it's just like the only thing that's like around and cheap is Subway.
Yeah, you got to go to Missoula to get that damn thing.
You gotta go to Missoula for a good sub.
So before we end this show, in your notes, there's something else I'm very curious about.
Okay, yeah.
So where did you see? So Drew saw a celebrity, and trust me, this is a celebrity we would all love to see.
Oh man. So yeah, this weekend, I last week I got an email from one of those like cheap tickets like deals websites, and it was like, go see Jay Leno at Flappers. Flappers is a local comedy club in Burbank. And I was like, oh, how much? And it was like comp tickets, because they just want to get people in the door so that then they can make them do 2 drink minimum. So I was like, well, I gotta see Jay Leno do stand up. And so like I got tickets. I asked my loved ones if they would go. Most of them said no. Then finally my friend John, shout out to John Peltz. He's a really good writer at Knock LA. He does a lot of good stuff involving like local reporting, but he's also kind of a partner in crime of wanting to like go see like concussion entertainment with me. So he was actually on the Chateau Marmont strike line, and he was like dipping out afterwards, and he was like trying to get people to come, but for whatever reason Chateau Marmont strike line did not want to go see Jay Leno. And so I'm in Burbank, which is a little bit more like it's like suburban LA, everyone's waiting, and I get in, they immediately nail me for, my 2 drinks or like items, drawn to. Everyone's like stirring. It's a bad audience. Everyone's poorly behaved. You used to stand up in clubs. You know how like clubs are. It's rough stuff. And
Yeah.
like finally, the opener finishes, and because it's the 10 p.m. show, he's just like, all right, here he is, Jay Leno. And like, I am like 7 feet away from Jay Leno, and I'm like freaking out. Like I'm like just like whatever. Like my brain is just like short circuiting because I'm like, what is he going to be wearing? Is he going to be wearing denim? What is he going to talk about? And he looks rather old. He's an old guy now. He wasn't wearing denim, which was very disappointing.
Yeah, it's a letdown.
He did a lot of jokes about bad Me Too guys, which I thought was pretty bold for him. Not like, oh, these guys are good, but just like, oh, I'm surprising he's talking about like Cosby, like right off the bat.
Oh, really? Did he do
his opening joke was like, oh, we got a special guest coming up, Bill Cosby. And then everyone's like, he's just like, yeah, who could have seen it? Like, I mean, to be fair, like he's like, he was like, oh, it took, in Saudi Arabia, it took 2 women to accuse a man of assault for him to be convicted. In America, I guess even 60 won't do enough, so I can't impart enough how much it just felt like watching the monologue of the Tonight Show, because he would just be like, oh, Joe Biden's in the news, and it's like, this is a stand-up set, dude. Like, you're not going on TV every night. He's just like, Joe Biden's in the news, or like, so Lori Loughlin's getting out of prison soon. It's just like I don't even remember what the punchlines were. I was just obsessed with like how he was just like, oh, so he just kept on being like did you see this? Or, did you see that? And he's a comic at a comedy club, and so he naturally had to talk about, oh, people are too sensitive nowadays. Yeah, of course. I mean, after a completely like very like down the line, like it was funny because like when he was talking about like Biden and Trump, he made no comments about like their politics or who was good or who was bad. He's just like, if I do a joke about Trump, people get mad at me, and if I do a joke about Biden, people get mad at me. So it's just like that classic apolitical Leno stuff. But his big thing about like why people would be like too politically correct was like the theme song from Shaft couldn't be made nowadays.
Okay. I mean, I'll say this. I first of all, that is like, I mean, really, it's almost like he's saying like, you couldn't do the Beverly Hillbillies nowadays.
I mean, it's also like he could have been doing that as a closer in 1990. Like, yeah. I mean, as long as when people are like, oh, politically correct, or, things have gone too far, like he probably could have done that joke as early as, I bet you, because he doesn't put out specials, all this stuff he's just constantly touring with. I bet you that's been a joke in his act for like 40 years. He's just like 2 or 3 years after Shaft came out, he's like, well, what if I wrote politically correct versions of Shaft?
And these people never, like, these guys never like feel bad about that kind of thing. Like Jay Leno he could just not care at all. Have you watched the Comedy Store special or doc series on?
I have not. I'm very touchy about like comedy documentary stuff, because I whenever it gets too up its own ass, I get really upset.
So I do too, and I didn't want to watch it, but then I walked in and my wife was watching it, and I was like, well, now that you watched it, I feel like I gotta watch it. I don't know why I felt that way, but I just did, because there's nothing in this world that I like less than listening to comedians talk about the craft of comedy. It just really bugs me.
There's only like 4 things they talk about. One is like how like maybe secretly they're sad. One is like how like a road audience is different than an LA audience, is different than a New York audience. oh, what's it like to deal with a heckler? Like it's just like all the same. It's like, yeah, I don't want to hear about how you deal with a heckler. It's easy. You have a microphone and you can scream at them. Like anyone who's like just like, oh yeah, I took down this heckler. It's like, yeah, so what? It's like, oh, I bopped a little mouse in the head with a mallet. It's like not a fun thing to brag about. But the other funny thing about Leno is he like did a lot of humor based on like his like house, and he was just like, oh, now my house isn't like he was just like trying to talk about how his house wasn't like the fancy house on his block, because like the guy that owns the Giants lives on his block, which is just very funny for like Jay Leno to be like, listen, I'm not the rich guy in my neighborhood. Like just like I think he knows that there needs to be a little bit of a buy-in when like he's doing jokes about taking out the trash. So he's just like, listen, am I rich? Yes, but in comparison to the guy next door, and it all led up to a joke about like how like Prince William and Kate Middleton like hung out in his driveway once, but he just had to do like that bricklaying of being like, I'm not actually as stuffy and rich as you think I am.
He is seriously. He has to be one of the richest guys in the country. I would think.
Like, I don't know if he's like a billionaire, but like
you don't think he is?
I don't necessarily. Maybe who knows what his personal investments is. His whole line is always like, "Oh, I never touched my Tonight Show money. I just lived off of my stand-up money," which is just like, oh, cool. You're just bragging about how this insanely big income stream you don't even have to touch. Like you're just like, that's just money I just like set aside. Like,
well, and on that Comedy Store thing, I was semi shocked that like, so Letterman's on there and he seems cool about stuff, doesn't really say anything like that, but at the end there's a panel. Mm-hmm. The very last episode is like a panel, and it has like Whitney Cummings, Howie Mandel, I think, was on there, Paul Rodriguez, and Leno's fucking there. And like the craziest thing is like they do spend an amount of time talking about cancel culture, but the most like angry, the guy that Jay Leno like really surprised me, because he just went like this: you don't apologize, you just move on. Never apologize. You just move on and ignore the people who are saying stuff. And I was like, God damn, Jay.
He made it work for 30 years. I mean, he did it.
He did have to apologize recently though.
Oh, did he make like jokes about Monica Lewinsky or like?
No, it was Asians.
Oh, Asians. Okay. Yeah. I'm sure if like people pulled up enough stuff, like he would be apologizing more. But
that was made in 2018. So
well, he has a new TV show coming out, so I think that's a part of it. Like he's going to be back he's doing You Bet Your Life, which is a 1950s Groucho Marx game show that he's going to host. So maybe he was testing material for this. There's another very funny stand-up that I would love to talk to you about the set, but I will not do it on the air. That's just a fun
then
little
you have
tease.
to send me something.
Here, I'll just like put it in the chat real quick. I'm so sorry to do this in the I'm so sorry to do this to the audience, but yeah, just like, oh, like much worse than Jay Leno. Like I was like shocked. But actually I bought like a Jay Leno t-shirt like in advance, totally incidentally, before like the like tickets even came up, and I was so fucking mad that it didn't come in time, because I wanted to wear my Jay shirt in the front row and just like be like Moose from that wonderful Fred Durst movie, The Fanatic, for Jay Leno.
Yeah, I love that movie. God damn it,
so good.
I mean, Leno is like a really fucking blank canvas, but I think he is he's got to be right one of the most angry guys.
I mean, I think he used to be cool in the 80s, and then everyone hated him for like 30 years, and he had to grind and never be like accepted, and I'm sure, and he's still grind like there has to be like some like great white whale or like rosebud sled of his that he doesn't have yet. It's probably a fancy car. It's probably like a fancy car coming to life and being like, I think you're cool and funny, and like you didn't screw anyone over. No, it's just very special, and especially seeing him in Burbank, which is where he performed, like the energy was just like very vibrating. It was also like the night that they were like, okay, we need to like put COVID masks back on if you're in LA. So like everyone in like every joke was like someone being like, oh yeah, and remember at midnight you're gonna have to put the masks back on. And like surely enough, everyone like as the show got out at midnight, everyone like got like a mask out and like put it on their face, and everyone was just like, COVID's back in LA, baby. Like we're all just gonna walk solemnly to our cars.
Yeah.
Like a terrible New Year's party. It's
that is
like,
bad. Yeah.
Jay Leno counts you down, and then you have to wear a mask again.
Fucking yeah. You just saw Jay Leno, and now you're wearing a mask. And Jay Leno doing jokes from 1983, which
it's just really. I mean, it really. But also, I mean, listen. Someone in the audience recorded it on their phone, and I'm sure I can find out who that was and get it to you. Let's put it like that.
I would listen to that.
Bootlegging stuff is cool. I'm gonna just start becoming like a Grateful Dead bootlegger for like 72-year-old Jay Leno. Just be like trying to trade Leno tapes. Like there's probably like 3 people in the entire world who would want to do that with me, and just like all of us just like going. He probably does shows in Burbank. He probably does shows in the Midwest, and like that's probably it. Just like oh yeah, this is the July 13th Leno set.
I don't think he's been here in a long time, but I'm not sure. I mean, our big thing here that goes nuts is the Price is Right tours out here.
Oh yeah, I mean that makes a lot of sense.
People go bonkers for that.
Apparently, the key is just being really peppy and upbeat, and ideally either a trooper, like a cute college student, and you'll get on the show. Is my understanding.
Okay, well, I need to become a cute college student.
No, you know what you can do. It's the thing you've been talking about for 10 years. You just steal valor and go on.
That's on military. Yeah, that's true. Yeah, that is true.
Like Drew Carey, like asks you what battalion you're in.
I think when it comes to Columbus, though, Drew Carey's not the host. It's like they hire a different host.
Oh wow, he won't come back to Ohio.
Well, no, it's just like. It's a touring version of it. It's the equivalent of a house show.
Okay, I had no idea they do Price is Right house shows.
I
just assumed that like it would be a fun thing for him to go on like the road, because Wheel of Fortune tapes all across America.
Yeah. Well, Drew, we did it, and I want to thank you for closing out Drew Week. You can find Drew as Drew DREWSPURS on Twitter. And is there anything else, Drew?
Just follow me on Twitter. I there's a couple of things that I don't have dates for yet. So just follow me. I'm around. I'm not a hard guy to find. Mostly I'm just had a blast. It's really fun getting to record and work with stuff with you. So get out to LA soon. Yeah, get out to LA soon, or I'll get to Columbus soon.
Yeah, we love you, Drew. And me and Brett will be back together this Sunday for the call-in show. Tell your friends to go to the Patreon. Tell them that I talked about sex for a bunch of days and I'm a freak about it.
It's very good. Brian Unleashed. It's worth checking out.
Yeah, tell them that this weirdo guy that's a podcaster that has really odd hang-ups about sex, and then I think they will subscribe. So tell your friends. And that's the show. Jason, take us out of here.